עיני אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי. עזרי מעם אדוני, עושה שמים וארץ. עזרי מעם אדוני, עושה שמים וארץ. הייתן לעמוד רגליך, ינום שומרך. הנה לא ינום ולא יישן, שומר ישראל. אדוני שומרך, אדוני צילך על יד ימינך. אדוני שומרך, אדוני צילך על יד ימינך. יומם השמש לא יככה, וירח בלילה. אדוני ישמורך מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך. אדוני ישמור צאתך ובואך מעתה ועד עולם. אדוני ישמור צאתך ובואך מעתה ועד עולם. המקומו יבוא ושלום. Our tradition is to begin our service with a psalm. In this way, we link the memory of our beloved with thousands of years of Jewish tradition, with the people of Israel and the eternity of God. A song for those who ascend, Shir LaMa'alot, Esa Einai El Harim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri. I turn my eyes to the mountains, From where will my help come? My help comes from God, Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way, your guardian will not slumber. You see, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian, your protection at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your life. God will guard your going and coming, now and forever. May Sheldon Claman go unto God in peace. Hatzur tamim polo kichol drachav mishpat el emunah ve'inav el tzadik v'yashar hu tzadik atah Adonai lamidu lachayot asher biyadcha pigadon korochot chalila lacha zichronenu limchot v'yihiyu na'inech barachamim aleinu v'kuchot ki lachan Adon harachamim v'haslichot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam dayan ha'emet. Praised are you, Adonai our God, who rules the universe, who is the judge of truth. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevorach, v'hu rachum yechaper avon v'lo yashchit, v'hirba lashiva po v'lo yirko chamato, v'yasho v'yafar la'aretz she'aya. V'haruach tashu el Elohim asher netana. The dust returns to the earth as it was, but the spirit returns to God who gave it. May our beloved soul be bound up in the bond of life eternal. And may God send comfort to those who mourn and grant strength to those whose burden is sorrow. I want to acknowledge and thank our pallbearers this morning for their mitzvah. And to all of you, thank you for tuning in to our broadcasts. How difficult it is when we can't be together, but how thankful we are for technology so that we can still have the opportunity to share this service in the words of tribute that we're about to share as this service unfolds. We have come together today to honor Sheldon Claman, Yeshua Moshe ben Baruch Her Shalevi V'chana, the son of Benjamin Claman and Teresa Bloom, Zichronam Livracha, of blessed memory, husband of Louise, father of Aaron, Benny, Zichrono Livracha, of blessed memory, Sarah and Marty and Jeffrey, Zeta to Brett and Seth, and brother to Usher, Zichrono Livracha, of blessed memory. We have come together as a community and a family to pay tribute to Sheldon, to show him the ultimate respect we have in Jewish tradition of accompanying him here to his final resting place. And we have come together to say goodbye. Sheldon passed away Saturday on Shabbat, the 14th day in the Hebrew month of Tevet. He was 88. Many people in our community knew of Sheldon Claman as an oral surgeon, a kind, considerate, patient, and thoughtful doctor. On a personal level, I'm proud to share that in my own family, he holds the honor of having removed both my mother's and my uncle's wisdom teeth. I also have the honor of speaking about his professional reputation and career before Marty brings words that he has written as well as that Aaron has written to talk about him as a family man, which was truly his greatest pride and achievement. But it should be mentioned today that his professional reputation was also incredibly well-deserved and preceded him. Strength of character, integrity, ethics, a moral code as a physician, a man who cared for his patients and even the patients of other doctors and dentists if they ever needed his help as well. A man who was drawn to what became his life's work because it provided a way for him to help and support people. I have learned that Sheldon took tremendous pride in his work. In a nearly 40-year career, his accomplishments speak to this pride, to his work ethic, to his dedication, to the way he served his community, both in Winnipeg but also internationally. As I mentioned, nearly 40 years, a career in private practice, 7 years in the 1960s teaching in the Faculty of Dentistry at the University of Manitoba, which included a stint as head of the Department of Oral Surgery. Also in the 1960s, when the Medicare system was introduced, he became a spokesman and champion for his new specialty. He was on the vanguard of oral and maxillofacial surgery and played an integral part in helping that become an internationally recognized dental specialty. He served on the board of the Manitoba Dental Association, including serving as president. He was a fellow of the Royal College of Dentists of Canada, where he also served as president. And he was president of the Canadian Society of Oral Surgeons, as well as an active and involved member of the Alpha Omega International Dental Fraternity. Sheldon was born in Beausejour. His father, Ben, was also a dentist who had set up a practice there. Ben was born in Winnipeg, but had studied dentistry in Minneapolis, which is where he met Sheldon and Usher's mother, Teresa. By 1940, the entire family had relocated to Winnipeg, and Sheldon had fond memories growing up in Elmwood. After high school, he joined the Army Reserves, went to the U of M, later McGill in Montreal, where he studied dentistry. He spent 3 years with the Army, primarily stationed in Fort Churchill, and then he moved south to the United States, studying at the University of Iowa and then later the University of Oklahoma to specialize in oral and maxillofacial surgery. His plan was always to go back to the States, back to Oklahoma City. In fact, he was only in Winnipeg for what was supposed to be a short time, teaching at the U of M, waiting for papers to return to the U.S. When, as he put it, the trajectory of his life was changed forever when he was set up on a blind date with Louise Hecht. Her sister-in-law, Evelyn, had suggested that she go out with this nice young man who was her dentist. That blind date was in May. They were married in December. And Sheldon never left Winnipeg, except, of course, to spend summers in Gimli, winters in Phoenix, and trips and adventures abroad with Louise over the next 56 years. As I mentioned, his reputation as an oral surgeon preceded him and was well deserved. He carried himself in his work as a mensch, devoted to patients, devoted to the profession, devoted to the community. But his greatest accomplishment in life was his family. And we are so honored that his son-in-law, Marty, has written a eulogy he will now share that reflects Sheldon as a family man, as well as bringing words of tribute written by Sheldon's daughter, Erin, who could not be with us today, but has shared her words that Marty will read as well. Marty.
I'm going to start with Erin's words. Erin is in Toronto, and because of this pandemic, she isn't able to be with us. So I will share some thoughts that she's written about her dad. My father, Daddy, Sheldon or Shell, as his family and close friends called him, was a very, very special person in my life from a very early age. Although our relationship had its ups and downs, he was and will always be a blessing in my life. First of all, we shared emotional IQs. For example, the Sunday scaries, starting to titter about the work week on Sunday as Monday approached. When I was feeling blue, he was also there for me. He was in tune, he understood me wholly and completely, and so was able to be empathic. He was my fan club, encouraging me in times of despair as well as celebrating my achievements. How proud he was when I graduated from St. John's Ravenscourt, and how elated again many years later he was when he and my mother traveled to Hamilton to watch me convocate from McMaster University. I remember both days well. Daddy had many special attributes, for example, patience and tenacity. He was a wonderful homework helper for us, especially during our time at St. John's Ravenscourt. Later in life, he would sit in front of his computer endlessly figuring out how to run programs and send and retrieve emails. I would coach him for hours over the phone on how to navigate Windows 10. Inevitably, I was always worn out before he did. He even figured out how to send texts on his mobile flip phone, which is still beyond me. Another quality my father had was a sense of commitment and follow-through. An excellent example of this was learning to swim. He started lessons later in life, and his special friend Mark Prober was with him. They went every Sunday. He became quite accomplished at the front crawl. He would always joke that his front half floated while his back half dragged along behind underwater. I would call home on Sundays and speak to my mom and dad, catching up on all the Winnipeg news. Daddy and I spoke about American politics, and he was an avid CNN Fareed Zakaria watcher. He also talked about the state of politics in Canada, and of course about my nephews, my parents' awesome and beloved grandsons, Brett and Seth. And from time to time we would reminisce about our favorite storyteller, Stuart McLean. Finally, as an aside, we both had similar culinary preferences. We both loved ginger snaps to dunk in tea. The curry chicken recipe I found in the Kidney Foundation cookbook made with my mom's help. In anticipation of my home visits, Daddy would put in a request for both, and I, of course, would oblige with love. Memories, I have so many others. Haircuts and toe cures with Anne at Ivy, reminding me when I was 4 to watch this new show called Sesame Street. Growing a beard and then coming one night clean-shaven. Tales of growing up in anti-Semitic Beausejour. Stories of his time in the Canadian Forces Reserves to pay his way through McGill, rooming with Justice Sidney Schwartz. Dancing with Daddy at my cousin Allison's wedding. Netflix and pot stickers on New Year's Eve not so many years ago. I have so many memories. I wrote this haiku for a creative writing class, and I find it speaks to me now. Tears rain in my heart, honoring my innermost. You are with me. Just. Finally, this poem came my way during a Jewish meditation last week. I do strongly believe Dad would have wished this for me, my family, and all of you. May you be blessed with happiness, free from suffering. May you be blessed with health, free from pain. May you accept yourself just the way you are. May you be peaceful and full of ease. May you be forgiving. May you be free. When Louise asked me to speak for the family about Sheldon, I struggled to think how you sum up a life in a few paragraphs, especially a life with so many accomplishments, both professional and personal. 26 years ago, I officially became part of the family when I married Sarah. Sheldon welcomed me from the get-go. There was never any uncomfortable moments with him, or challenges with conversation, or awkward silences ever. Sheldon was interested and intentional in his relationships, which became apparent to me immediately. Those of you who know him know this. He was a good guy. He was a soft-spoken gentleman. He was humble, he was respectful, never a curse word from his mouth. His devotion to family was constant. He always lit up when Sarah and I brought the boys over, his 2 grandsons, Brett and Seth. Whether in Gimli, Phoenix, or at home, he zeroed in on his grandsons, and they him. They could do no wrong in his eyes, and he let them know it. That was the intentional part of him. They knew how he felt about them, and he knew their devotion to him. Seth would always love to pat his head. He would light up hearing of their accomplishments, their interests, passions they shared with each other, whether it was music, sports, school plays, report cards, milestones, B'nai B'rith camp stories, whatever they said, he was engaged. One time I came to the house on Colchester when Brett was little. Sheldon was looking after him. I walked in and I couldn't find them anywhere. I called out, but no answer. As I walked through the house, I could hear talking coming from Sheldon's room. I came in and found Brett and Sheldon fully dressed, sitting in the shower. Silly me, I did not realize the shower was now a spaceship that they had been sitting in for the better part of the entire afternoon. But whatever Brett wanted, Sheldon was on it. Seth came along, and he and Sheldon shared a love of midday naps in Gimli where Seth would fall asleep on his stomach. Sheldon, in turn, would have a contented nap. As Seth got older, they would talk of Sinatra, the Rat Pack, and classic movies, or whatever was going on for Seth. Those conversations always put a smile on his face. Sarah and I could not have asked for a kinder, more compassionate support of Zeta for our boys. They were always on his mind, and he them. Sheldon was a devoted husband to Louise for 56 years. The sun rose and set on Louise. His mission was to make her happy and not to burden her, to provide for her and to care for her. Wheeze, he affectionately called her. He loved her cooking. She prided herself on making things he loved, which was almost everything she made. Even if he wasn't a fan of a particular dish, Sheldon, in true fashion, he would find a way to let her know without being critical. This was not in his nature. They did everything together. They traveled the world. They wintered in Phoenix for many years, which he loved. Nothing was out of the question if it would make Louise happy. He was completely head over heels. At Louise's last birthday a couple of weeks ago, he was already fading. As Sarah and I and the boys were leaving, he stopped. He said he wanted to say something. We gathered around, and Sheldon again confessed his love for Louise. He quietly said, "I made a lot of mistakes in my life, but marrying Louise was not one of them." Sheldon made friends with everyone. If you came to the house for a repair, lunch dates would follow after the job was done. He enjoyed conversation, exchanging ideas, learning about people. This was his gift. He did not judge people. He was tolerant and intuitive. He had many, many friends, both professionally and personally. Sarah and I would take the boys to dentist appointments, and when they found out Sheldon was their Zeta, they would share stories of him teaching, mentoring, and helping them with their careers. This is what he did. He helped people. This was evident in everything he did in life. He just tried to help. I watched him and I learned from him. I saw a man who could have had many material things, but this was not Sheldon. When he was looking to buy one more car for himself, him and I went and test drove a few. Sheldon had always driven a Nissan Maxima, but since this new car would be his last, I suggested to him getting whatever he wanted, which he could have done. We drove the Lexus, we drove the Infiniti. I suggested a Mercedes or a Caddy. No surprise when he called me a week later to say he had bought a car, his third Nissan Maxima. Material things did not have meaning for him. Family and friends did. So how does one capture a life? A person of so many accomplishments and so many relationships. I still struggle. I want everyone to know my father-in-law, Dr. Sheldon Claman, as I came to know him. But that's not possible in a few paragraphs. You can watch his grandsons grow, see the men that they will become, compassionate, empathic, caring, learned. You will get a glimpse of him and who he was. Sheldon, you were top drawer all the way. We all will cherish the memories we have with you and of you. Rest in peace.
Marty, thank you for that tremendous and beautiful eulogy, and for sharing Aaron's words of tribute as well. And thank you to Aaron for sending those words so that Marty may read them here at this service. Before I chant the El Malei Rachamim, the Jewish memorial prayer in honor of Sheldon Claman, let me conclude this hesped, this eulogy portion of our service, by saying, in the Talmud, it says, monuments need not be erected for the righteous. Their deeds are their memorials. Sheldon Claman will be remembered and revered for the kindness he has shown and for the love he has given. He is a shining example of what the sages of Jewish tradition meant when they said, the Torah teaches of 3 crowns, the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of royalty. But a 4th crown, the crown of a good name, excels them all. Sheldon Claman is a shining example of what it means to be a mensch. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, B'malot Kedoshim Uteorim, Kezohar Arakia Mazirim, Et Nishmat Yeshua Moshe ben Baruch Hersh Halevi Vechana Shelach Leolamo, Began Edente Menuchato, Anabal Harachamim, Hastireu Beseiter Kenafecha Leolamim, Utzror Bitzror Achaim Et Nishmato, Adonai hu nachalato, v'yanuach v'shalom al mishkavo, v'nomar amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Sheldon Claman, Yeshua Moshe ben Baruch Hersh Halevi V'chana, son of Benjamin and Teresa, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that he find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. In these difficult times, we cannot have Shiva in the way we are used to. So I encourage all of you who are watching to send messages that show how your hearts are joined together with those in Sheldon's family. Emails, text messages, phone calls. There is no substitute for the warmth of a hug or the holding of a hand, but we can still find ways to transcend difficult times and share love, stories, memories, and above all, the lasting and enduring impact Sheldon had in our lives. To the family we say, Hamakom yinachem etchem b'toch sha'ar avei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May you be comforted and consoled among those who are in mourning or who have ever been in mourning in our community. We will turn now to the words of the Mourner's Kaddish, and then we will conclude our service. Family members who are here will have the opportunity to shovel some earth into the grave. Another mitzvah, an extension of caring for our loved one until the very end, something we hold dear and believe strongly in Jewish tradition. It's an act we do without hope of any reward, something truly selfless, taking on the responsibility of caring for Sheldon until the end. We believe our loved ones deserve to be buried by our own hands, kind, knowing, sorrowful, hands that once held their hands. It can be a difficult act, but it is one born of love and compassion for someone who meant so much to so many people. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevorach. I offered these words at the beginning, at the onset of our service. They come from Job, who is the epitome of suffering in Jewish tradition. God you have given, God you have taken away, blessed be the name of God. May the memory of Sheldon Claman, Dr. Sheldon Claman, be a blessing, as we mark that his essence will never leave our hearts and our souls. The Mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'Yit Gadash Shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei techol beit Yisrael. V'agala uvizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach le'alam u'lamei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal Shemei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba min Shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. May the one who creates peace and harmony on high bring peace and harmony to us, to all Israel, and to all humanity. And again, let us say, Amen. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Thank you very much.